without pain. So proto-agricultural processes in other part of the country actually developed in full-blown agriculture. And here's a map of the Fremont culture. The Fremont culture got practically close. It got all the way in Idaho. They were corn farmers. But it kind of came and went, corn agriculture. You know, it allowed them to have a pretty high population density, and they probably did use that to conquer hunter-gatherer societies. But they lacked some of the technology that Middle Eastern agriculture developed, and therefore they never took over the world. And in fact, they eventually declined and became hunter-gatherers themselves again. And it wasn't a very appealing lifestyle, I don't think, compared to the lifestyle of the plateau, the fishing people. And could you imagine an ancient farmer going down to the Columbia from Utah and saying, you know, I grow my own food? And I think the plateau people would say, you have to grow your own food? My food swims up to me in the river. I don't have to do anything. It just shows up. So that's one take on agriculture. All our history books that we read in grade school are biased to the idea that agriculture was like this great thing that was just waiting to happen, that was definitely an advancement and good for everybody, and that's in doubt in the scientific community, in anthropology and archaeology. A lot of what we're told in our textbooks, the idea that agriculture allowed us to settle for the first time, is not true. We already know that the fishing people were already settled. And it was probably people that were already settled that developed agriculture. And one reason that is likely to be the case is that only a settled people would be using their resources intensively enough to want to develop something like agriculture. So say a settled group starts to really stress the game resources in the area. They start to really stress the fish and berries and stuff. Things start to get scarce. They have to go further and further for food. That might be the time that we need to start planting seeds to survive. And here's the other thing that you've got to realize about agriculture, and it can only occur in a game vacuum. Like we talked about earlier, in order for us to farm wheat, potatoes, corn, we got to keep the elk on the other side of the river. We got to keep them out of the basin. Anybody who gardens in deer country knows you can't have animals and farming. I mean, you can if you like fence everything off. But broad-scale agriculture, you know, wheat farming, you can't put a fence around all of that. And so it's my theory that only in an area that was already being hunted out could you even have agriculture in the first place. And only then would you want it, because it's actually backbreaking work. You know, you go from that 4-hour hunter-gathering workday to a really brutish workday, bending over, hurting your back, hoeing soil, planting, and it's actually a poor diet. Ancient farm skeletons are really stunted. When you go over and see ancient structures from early European colonists of this continent, like the Mayflower, they had really short doors and stuff. All the buildings were really small. It's because they were eating gruel. They weren't eating vegetables. They weren't eating meat, and they were really small and stunted. Hunter-gatherers are bigger, and we've only now recovered our old size. Our Western diet has allowed us to get as big as we've evolved to get. So whether agriculture is a good idea is debatable, but what we do know agriculture is good for is for concentrating wealth. And the best illustration of this is the fact that agriculture, as it was developed in the Andes, didn't start out as food production. You can read about this in the book 1491. Farming developed first as a cotton farming. So they were already settled. They were fishing, and cotton farming took hold because because they could use the cotton to make nets to catch the fish to get their food. So the thing about fish is that you can't stack a bunch of them up in a silo. Fish go bad. You can concentrate a whole bunch of wealth in the form of cotton. And agriculture may have spread not because it's better at feeding people, but because it concentrates wealth. And those who concentrate wealth will want to continue doing that. And so you can look at technology as an opportunity, or you can look at it as a response to stress. Necessity is the mother invention. Are bows and arrows a better weapon, or did we only adopt bows and arrows with smaller projectiles because we lost the big game, and game got smaller and harder to pursue? It used to be that you could hunt big game with a spear. Bows and arrows come into use right around the time that we're losing the bigger mammals. And you name it, any technology. I think I can think of an example of how that technology relieves a stress, relieves a problem maybe caused by other technology. Are showers and microwaves convenient? Or do we work so hard that we couldn't exist without them? Do we work so many hours where we can't cook on a fire anymore, we can't heat up some bath water and take our time with those things anymore? A lot of our high technologies were invented during wartime. So agriculture, this is here. This is between here and Moses Lake. So our history books tell us that we developed agriculture allowed us to have division of labor, civilization, and settlement, and art. Here's another look at it. Agriculture leads to population growth. It also leads to land degradation. When we go from utilizing perennial plant resources to annual ones and have to plow the landscape, we're going to lose soil. And we're going to have to clear forests. And all these things are related. It's just a big tangled web. In ecology, they call it a positive feedback loop. It's a kind of feedback that doesn't cancel itself out. It just amplifies and gets bigger and bigger. Does this make sense? Like, population growth can lead to scarcity. Land degradation can lead to scarcity. When you have concentration of wealth, that can lead to conflict. Conflict can lead to scarcity. Scarcity can lead to conflict, and on and on. And this system might have canceled itself out, except that it can spread. And it has to spread, or else it would have been extinguished a long time ago. And ever since wheat agriculture was developed in the Middle East, it's been growing and growing and growing. And it only occupied as much land as we had right before the Green Revolution, where we invented like nitrogen fertilizers from the Haber-Bosch process, made out of fossil fuels. So basically, by then, we'd run out of new arable land. Agriculture could not expand anymore, and it might have slowly collapsed, except that we invented fertilizers and expanded it that way. We expanded our yields, and we're still trying to do that with our genetically modified crops. Led to other bad things.